As we can see here in one of my recent videos, what if I have no experience in remote closing? We have a question here from Mabel, and he says, Sean, what setup and tools or apps are needed as a closer? So first of all, obviously you need your computer, Wi-Fi, phone. That's a given because this is the internet. Tools wise, most of our calls are done on Zoom. There was a phase in my life where the company wanted me to make actual phone calls. So for that about 1.5 years, I paid for Skype credits, and I used Skype to get an American number because I am not based in the US, but a lot of my prospects and clients were based in the US. So the company said it's fine that you're based in Singapore, but we want our clients to know that our company is based in America, so get an American number. So I did that via Skype, and I bought an American number. I paid for Skype credits, and I would call all my prospects who book in with us using Skype, and there was no video, so it's all audio, and that was a great time. So that works as well. You don't really need a lot of special apps. PayPal is used to collect commissions, and everything else, most if not all of the time, whatever the companies need you to have, most of them were given by the companies, like LastPass or Monday or whatever they use for meetings, distribution of tasks. Everything was given by the companies, so not too much to worry about that. I will say though, in one of my previous training, and you can go to my YouTube and search for 5 phases to 5 figures. That's a 5 phases to 5 figures, and you will see this particular training that I talk about environment wise, and this is so important. Most closers, and I'm assuming that you want to transition in because this is a question for someone who's at the start of the journey, and from what I've seen, most closers don't have an issue with apps. Like, you give them a good computer and internet, and they can figure out the rest of the stuff. What I see closers struggle with is space. That's the first one, and by space I mean, like what you see here is the space that I created for myself when I first started, and I make sure that it's quiet, I make sure that it's organized, I make sure that it's conducive, I make sure that the energy here, okay, first of all, I won't be disturbed, and second of all, I can fully focus. So I've seen some closers where they actually have all the right setup, but when they try and take calls, I don't know what it is. Sometimes they have like other family members walking around behind them and causing distractions or making sound. Or I've seen people where they take the call halfway and then they have to, carry their baby, or sometimes they have their dog comes up and then they join the Zoom conversation. So obviously, if you're very experienced, you can get away with all these kind of things, but if you're new, you want to make a good impression, you really want to have a good, clean, professional, nice setup. Doesn't have to be very fancy, minimalist, quiet, and you can focus, good Wi-Fi. Where most closers fail is they have people coming in to distract them, or they cannot affirm their space. You have to if you're alone, that's great, right? But if you have people around, you got to say, hey, right now I am transitioning, okay, so from this time to this time I'm taking calls, I'm doing interviews, and this is real work. I'm doing sales online, so I'm having business conversations. Like, give me this space and give me this time. Like, do whatever you have to do to communicate with the people around you, to let them respect your space so that you can do whatever you need to do to close and book appointments. Okay, so don't allow yourself to be disturbed. And I will say at the end of it that it's really that focus that you have internally, that determination that radiates out, so that when you communicate this to the people around you, they can pick that up and they can respect that, okay, I know Sean is doing work. I know Sean is on his computer, but he's not playing games all day. I know Sean is in his house, in his room, but it doesn't mean that he is not doing anything. Like, you really need to have that determination and focus in you first. So if you really think about it, that space that I'm talking about, where does it first exist? it has to exist inside of you first, and it has to be very, very strong. And it might not happen now, but slowly, surely over time, you will see the physical environment outside of you start to change itself to match that determination of your inner world. It really has to happen that way, because where most closers fail is they do it the other way around. They keep thinking it's the environment, and it is. They keep thinking that it's other people, and it could be. It's just that once those circumstances gets into you, then you really lose your whole internal setup, and then they try and take a call, and then an external emergency happens. They try and take a call, and then some disturbance comes in. They try to take a call, and then their spouse or their partner or their family member comes and create disturbance. They try to take a call, and the Wi-Fi goes down. So I really like to think that this whole thing of doing remote sales, a lot of times it's a challenge for yourself to understand your inner world, to have that determination, because a lot of things that we create in this online space, it needs to first exist inside. So protect your space, build your space, grow your space, and it starts internally, and slowly and surely over time you will see the space around you start to adjust itself to match your inner world. But if you do it the other way around, okay, like I didn't even knew like what apps to use. I didn't even know like how to navigate. I really had to rely a lot on the determination at a time where no one else believed that this could work. At the point in time when no one else understood what I'm trying to build. So all the stuff that you see in the training, okay, you will see is a recurring theme in all my work, that your inner world first, okay, and not too much to worry about the apps and software. Okay, the second thing I will say is your time. So the thing about remote closing, especially when you first transition in, or for a lot of you watching this right now, let me know in the comments if you are still currently in a 9 to 5 and your best friend is really going to be your control over your schedule. So whatever time that you have in a week, those are your resources, and you need to be very disciplined in terms of how you give out your time. Because again, where a lot of closers fall short is not that they don't understand the skills, it's not they don't understand the how. It's their internal world. Once you protect your space, the other thing you need to protect is your time. And if you think about it, space is time, and time is space. It's really all in the same thing. And I would suggest you just open up your Google Calendar, and it should look something like this. And if you look at a week as a unit of resource, then especially if you're new and you're transitioning in, right? You don't need apps, you don't need software. You need to practice, you need to study, you need to role play, you need to get good at what you're going to sell to companies, which is your setting skills and your closing skills. And if you don't have those skills right now, can I ask you, in a week, where is the time that you use to build the skill? And if it's not in your Google Calendar, it's not going to happen. And then you cannot sit back and say, oh, it's this, it's that. You have to take charge. You have to take charge, which means that when you open your Google Calendar, you should see, yes, you have your time for work, and then after that, even if it's 3 hours, even if it's 2 hours, even if it's 1 hour, even if it's half an hour a day, hey, even if it's 5 minutes a day, that time that you use to build the pillars. And if you want to ask me, Sean, what are the pillars that I have to build? Go study my 5 phases to 5 figures training, and I will put it in the description. Okay, those are for your external setup. Go study the inner game of closing. Okay, it's also on my YouTube. Just do a search. I'll put it in the link in the description below. That's for your inner world. Both you need to master. So the time that you use to build your internal pillars, the time that you use to build your external pillars, when you open your Google Calendar for that 1 week, it should be sprinkled and distributed all across, including the time that you have for yourself, to recharge yourself, to be at peace with yourself, to understand yourself that I'm making this transition now, and why am I doing it, and what are the things that I have to build. Okay, don't have this mentality that once I buy some closer programs, I'm going to make 6 figures next week. That's not the right way to think about this, because you need to build towards that, and no one's going to build it for you. That's the reality that I think by now, if you watch enough of my stuff, you should know, because I'm saying all this from experience, and what you see from my work no one helped me to build. Okay, I was the one that hour by hour my Google Calendar, I block time out, I study, I block time out, I train, I block time out, I show up and I take calls and I text people and I get on interviews and I do it and I do it and I do it. So it's in your space, it's in your time. Okay, but where does all of this start? Okay, it's really in your mind. Okay, so I don't think I really answered the question of what tools and apps, because there's really not much to do there, but I will say that the stuff that I share, if you have it down, that's great, you're on the right path. Okay, but if you haven't really sat down to think about what I just said, maybe now is the time, over the weekend when you have some time away from your work, really think about what I just said and see this as the reality of what's to come when you do transition to set and close. Okay, you have to be physically, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, socially, environment-wise, all this you have to be prepared. Okay, so look at the description and then study the rest of my video, and then keep your questions coming, keep your comments coming, and then I'll use it to create more content for you. Until next time, it's John Cena, and enjoy the next video.